just realizing that all of that deficit was not me. I'm so much more capable and so much more amazing than I ever thought that I was,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
I didn't know this person existed. I didn't know I had these abilities. And what do you know? Here they are.
Welcome to Stories of Creativity. I'm your host, Jo Vertis, and my guest today is Sarah Christensen. I saw some posts about Sarah's creative projects online, and I found her really inspiring. We're meeting today for the first time, and Sarah, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to learn more about you and your creativity. Tell me, what kinds of things do you create?
The most common things I create at the moment, I have a small hobby farm. I have rabbits and chickens, and I'll be getting goats. And so most of the things that I'm creating at the moment are various farm help items. One of the things that I made recently was a brooder box for the chicks that I got at the beginning of June. Like, I had a planter and I knew that I needed a brooder box, and the planter became a brooder box. I had a waterer for them that needed a handle, and rather than go buy one that has a handle, I figured out how to add a handle to the one that I had. Or my husband got a new barbecue for Father's Day, so rather than try to figure out how to get the old one to the dump, I gutted it and I found actually a cooler that fits inside the cavity that was created, right? And now I have a portable sink, because it's nice to be able to take the sink wherever I need to hold some water. So that kind of thing.
That is so cool. I love it. A brooder box is where, just to make sure I know what that is, that's where you hatch the chicks. Is that right?
So I ordered live chicks. They came.
Okay.
They were 3 days old when they got here. So the brooder box is usually where they live for the first, depending on what time of year, what climate you're in, they live in the brooder box for the first 6 weeks or so before they can go into the regular run with the rest of your birds, or if this is your first time, where the coop where you're going to keep them or whatever. Because I got them in June, they got to go outside a whole lot sooner. They've been actually out now since they were 3 weeks old because it's so hot here. But
yeah,
most of the time you keep them in a brooder box because you have to control the climate, the temperature that they're under. You have to make sure that they stay warm enough. Everyone else worries about making sure their chicks stay warm enough, and I'm like, gosh, I hope I can keep them cool enough. So.
That makes sense. Yeah. Wonderful. I love that you're using creativity in such a practical and functional way to get things done that need to be done around your home.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to figure out. Not only is it, it's not always a savings financially, but it's worth it almost to spend more on the parts just to see if I can get it from my head into reality sometimes.
I bet. Yeah. I can understand that. That's really fun. Well, I know that you've undertaken an important health journey in your life, and I gathered that there are some similarities between yours and mine. So I was really interested to learn more about that if you want to share. And also I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, is there a relationship between health and creativity?
Okay, so I have known that something was different about me since I was a child, but I didn't actually get an official diagnosis of anything until I was 18 and moved out of my parents' home. And at that point, I was only diagnosed with just major depressive disorder, right? Tried all the SSRIs, they all made me manic. And when I was pregnant with my second child, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And from there, after he was born, we went on the whole med go round, tried probably, I think I've got a record somewhere. It's like 46 different meds that we tried over 20 years. And all that we really ever achieved was less bad. you know? So in 2013, so I put on a whole bunch of weight with all of the meds. In 2013, I decided, well, if I have to have this life that is just mental illness and torture, you know, at least I can be sick and skinny. So I decided I'm done being fat in 2013. But I started counting calories. I started, you know, exercising more as I could. We moved to California from Washington State, and just the sunshine exposure alone made enough of a difference in my mood that I was able to get outside and be active and do things with my kids and stuff. But counting calories and eating less and trying to move more wasn't really moving the needle. And then in 2016, my husband decided that he also wanted to lose some weight, and the doctor's office that we were with at the time offered a medically supervised weight loss program or plan that turned out to be a low carb plan. So I felt like I was having kind of enough success on my own, but it's so much easier when everybody's on the same page. So I just went along with the low carb thing that he was following through his doctor's office, through our doctor's office. And the lower I reduced my carbs, the less I found I craved and wanted them, the more weight I was losing. And I started kind of looking around online to see, like, is there a safe lower carb limit? And I started to find information about ketosis and ketogenic diets. And I finally asked him at one point, the doctor, I asked, is there anything wrong with ketosis? Is there anything, like, am I going to be running any risks if I just stop eating carbs or altogether, or if I keep it really low? And he made the connection for the first time ever that I had heard, that a ketogenic diet treats epilepsy that can't be adequately treated with drugs, right? And epilepsy drugs are what are most commonly used to treat bipolar disorder, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody had ever made this connection before, not me, not any of my other doctors. So, you know, but he's like, nothing we've ever tried has significantly moved the needle. Give it a shot. It's just food. You know, if it doesn't work, you can add back some carbs. It's not like it's that hard.
That was your psychiatrist?
No, that was just a GP.
A GP?
That was just our primary care doctor in California. Mm-hmm. And that was all I needed to run with it. Like, wait a minute, you mean that there's a chance that what I eat could actually impact my mood and my brain in a way that I have not been able to achieve with all these medications that we've tried over the years? And so, I mean, that was the beginning of 2016, I believe, is when we started doing that. It was the end of 2015 when we started the diet, but it was the beginning of 2016 when I decided to go for full ketosis. And at that point, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. I lost all of the anxiety symptoms within 2 weeks.
Wow.
I know, like this lifetime of I can barely function. I remember swim lessons where I was so anxious that I would throw up before the lesson, or I didn't want to jump in the pool and I was so nervous and so anxious about it that the instructor actually threatened to push me in, which, you know, sure, that's helping a 7-year-old's anxiety, but whatever.
Right.
You know, I was so anxious about starting high school that the second and third day of school, I was actually sick before class and convinced my mom that I shouldn't go because I was sick, you know. No, it was actually just nerves. But I had lived with such anxiety for so long in my life, and 2 weeks of fueling my brain with ketones made the difference. I'm like, okay, if that can happen, what else can happen, right? And I just started to pursue it. After that, I was in a Facebook support group that was really, really strict. The guy that started it, he started it because his son had epilepsy. And so they were using a ketogenic diet to treat his son. But because of that, the rules for ketosis for epilepsy are different than if you're just trying to lose weight, right? And so having such a structured sort of set of this is how it goes, there's not any playing around, there's no net carbs, there's no whatever. I think that keeping it so strict in the beginning enabled me to heal my brain so much faster than it could have. Here I am 8 years into keto and low carb eating now. I don't take any meds for any. That's not true. I do take a thyroid med now. Actually, the years of lithium carbonate use for the mood disorder damaged my thyroid. And so, you'll hear some people say that keto will damage the thyroid. That's not what mine is about. Don't get the wrong impression here. Like, I don't think that keto damages thyroids. I think that lithium damaged my thyroid. And so there's a reason. But I don't take any psychiatric drugs. I take a couple of supplements. And that's it.
Congratulations.
It still blows my mind that food fixed 12 hospitalizations and an 8-month stint of intensive outpatient therapy and 20 years of in and out of counseling and these 46 medications. Did I already say that? I don't even know. There's so much, like, all of these things that we tried for decades failed, and food was the answer all that time. Wow.
I really
it's really mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's astounding, and it's gratifying, and it's amazing to realize a level of function and health that I never thought I would ever get back to. For so long, the message I got was, this is just the life that the cards you were dealt, the life that you get, there's not better. Stop trying to get better and just accept where things are so that you can move on. And it's like, I'm so glad I didn't listen. Yes.
Because there is more than just a medicated stupor. There is more than barely functioning, and I found it. And it's amazing. I don't know. Yeah.
That is amazing. I've heard a number of stories like this, specifically with people with bipolar disorder. I also was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I'm also on a ketogenic diet and doing so much better. It's absolutely amazing what you can do to transform your mind, your brain, by giving it the nutrition it needs. So I'm really excited to hear that. And I'm curious, was anxiety ever a part of your creative experiences? And regardless, how has this health transformation impacted your creative life?
I will say that I'm really familiar with depression, or I guess maybe anxiety, being almost a muse for some people. I know that when I was in high school, I did a lot of creative writing, and even before high school, but like in high school, I think was when I did the most of it. That was also when I suffered the most from mood symptoms, before I was treated with anything. I mean, I think that looking back now, it's pretty obvious to see that for me, once puberty hit and, the estrogen and progesterone got involved, things really went off the rails. And so, especially when things were really volatile in high school and, I was eating absolute atrocious, like gas station cheeseburgers kind of garbage, that certainly didn't help. And these are things that I can see looking back. but those were also the most kind of traditionally creative years. As far as, when you think of creativity, a lot of people think of writing music or writing poetry or stories or whatever. Those are the years that I did those things the most. And now that I have kind of recovered from the anxiety, the bipolar disorder, I consider it to be in remission or to have recovered from it at this point. And writing kind of creativity isn't so much on the block, it's actual physical creativity now. So in a way, yeah, I do think that it helped to fuel the writing kind of more artsy, for a lack of a better word, creativity. And I think that recovering it has opened up the more physical, practical, like actual, tangible creativity.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it from that angle, and it makes me think of how there's always been kind of a link or an association between mental health problems and creativity of the traditional arts aspect. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or, yeah, maybe, like you're saying, if anxiety is fueling that kind of creative expression, maybe it's because you're so tormented internally that you need some way to get that out, and so it comes out in art and music and poetry.
I think that that's definitely a part of it. At least it feels that resonates with me as being part of it. Just have to get it out, whether it's in song, in writing, in a painting or something. I think for me, a part of why I never created physical, tangible objects before was the brain fog of anxiety, but then also later on, the brain fog of medication. Because I mean, the medicated stupor is really something.
Yes.
I have been so debilitated by prescribed drugs that are supposed to be helping me. And it's like, the way that this is helping me is I'm too sedated to get off the couch to do anything, Yes, so,
I do.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. But the brain fog, so there's like, if I'm going to create a brooder box, for example, out of a planter, I have to be able to conceptualize that, okay, well, yeah, this was a planter box that was supposed to be 11 inches tall and 8 feet long, and it's got these pieces, and here's how I can stack it, and here's how I can cut the ends, because it only came with 4 attachment pieces, but now I need 8 because I'm stacking, all these things that I have to be able to brain out into existence, right? Which I couldn't do before. What an adorable babe.
Lenny came to say hi. Yeah.
So there's a completely different sort of process if I've got this anxiety, this tortured sort of thought process that I'm just putting from my head onto paper, versus I need this thing and it has to fulfill these 9 or 10 different functions, and I have to turn this random scrap of thing that I have at my disposal into this completely other, like, there's a whole different level of mental function that has to be there that wasn't for so many years.
Such a great point. Now that you're saying this, I'm realizing that I've been doing a lot more practical kinds of creative work since starting the ketogenic diet, for the same reason. My brain works better. I can think more clearly. I can keep track of things like numbers. I was doing a lot more sewing lately, which used to be just beyond me. I couldn't conceptualize, I couldn't visualize, I couldn't measure very accurately, and I didn't have the patience for it, So very interesting.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It's a really cool observation.
Well,
So,
thanks.
yeah. What kind of joy do you get out of making something that you could probably buy, like a brooder, that's different from the joy you get out of other fun activities in your life?
Oh gosh. In a way, I almost feel like a kid when I create something. Look at that thing I did. Like, that didn't exist. It was in my brain and I made it happen. Like, what? You know, I couldn't have done this even 4 years ago.
Totally.
Yeah. You know, let alone, I mean, I'm going to tell on myself, I guess. I'm 46 now. I was diagnosed when I was 23. And with bipolar disorder when I was 23. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, zero chance I would have looked at a planter and gone, I could make that into a brooder. Mm-hmm. Just wouldn't have happened. You know? And I get an almost childlike, gleeful delight out of being able to go, well, so I need a tool that does this. Does it exist? Either, yes, it exists, but it costs $600, or no, there's things that do sort of similar operations, but not exactly what I want. Well, then fine, I guess I'll make it myself. Or, you know, yes, I could absolutely go and buy a brooder, or a lot of people make them out of like a plastic tub or something, but I wanted something more suitable for my environment because I'm in Arizona. It's summer, like it's already 109 degrees right now today, right? So the brooder box that I could go and buy at Tractor Supply is something that's mass produced to be sold in the Tractor Supply stores in the entire country. It's not real specific for Arizona, and it's not real specific for the challenges that I have in my climate. And most people are buying their chicks in March, not in June, you know? So yeah, I could go and buy something, and yeah, I could probably make it work, but it's so much more fulfilling and rewarding to be able to do it with the things that I already have, with the skills that I've managed to acquire in the time, you know, that I've been on less meds and now off meds, and to have the confidence that even if I don't know exactly how to do the thing, I can figure it out now, which is not something that was a thing before either. So I don't know, it's a completely, it feels like almost like all of the years that I was drugged are years that I didn't grow. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like, you know, I'm still 23 figuring all this stuff out for the first time, kind of. And to have the ability to now look back and say, wow, that's something I should have figured out 10 years ago, and now I'm figuring it out now. But hey, it means my brain works in a way that it didn't then, or 20 years ago, or whatever it was. You know, there's so much joy and delight and reward in just realizing that all of that deficit was not me. All of that cognitive deficit, all of that inability, all of the years of being a slug, and my husband often refers to the zombie years. That's not who I actually was. That was caused by the treatments. That wasn't like, I'm so much more capable and so much more amazing than I ever thought that I was, you know?
Yes.
I didn't know this person existed. I didn't know I had these abilities. And what do you know? Here they are.
Thank you for watching part 1 of this inspiring interview with Sarah Christensen. Part 2 will be coming out soon. I hope you have a wonderful day with your creativity, my friend. See you next time. Bye.